Testing.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm James Burns. I'm the director of the Humanities Hub, and we are sponsoring this evening's program, which is brought to us by our benefactor, Loebsack and Brownlee. I'm going to turn things over to Chris Loebsack in a second to introduce our guest. Before I do, I just want to say I guarantee you'll be very happy you came tonight. I've had the privilege of spending time with our guest this week, and it's just an amazingly powerful experience being in her presence, hearing what she has to say. I think it's going to be quite moving. I will, at the end, come back up, help field questions, and help us have a conversation. So, Chris Loebsack, please. Round of applause for Chris.
No.
Incredible amount.
Really, it's for Jim. James did a great job putting this together. This is year 3 for those of you that weren't here last year. We had a great time, and this year we're going to do another great event for you. I am Chris Loebsack. I am a 1993 graduate of Clemson University. It is my honor and privilege to be able to bring this to the humanities at Clemson. Everyone asks me, how did an agronomy major turn into a humanities benefactor? And I always say the same thing, which is, I'm a lawyer now. That's our law firm. And there's nothing that prepares you for the law better than being able to think clearly, speak clearly, and write well. And the humanities does all of those things. I wasn't in the humanities, but I use it every day, and I deal with a team of people now, and it is our obligation to be able to communicate effectively with our clients. Humanities teaches all of those skills in one way, shape, or form, and most of the time, several at the same time. So thank you for thank you everyone who's here to support the humanities. But we're really honored this year most of all because our firm every year focuses a lot of our energy every October on supporting domestic violence because October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we have a Purple Out campaign every year, and if you haven't heard of it, please come back and find our webpage this October. You'll see all about it, probably starting in September, actually. And it's because of stories like Kim's that really puts us in a position where we know, everyone knows somebody who has a story about domestic violence. And I'm no example, Kim's no example. She's a living, breathing example, and I really want her to bring it to you. If you didn't get a chance to see the movie yesterday, please take time afterwards. You're going to want to see the movie. It was amazing. You were a rock star as the lead of the story. But this year's the Lectures in Law and Humanities series was sort of thought up as a way to bring the ideas of how law and humanities work together in so many ways every day in the world around you, not just in college. And so this is a perfect opportunity. Year 3 is a great opportunity. We've picked a new category this year, and it's about changing the law to support domestic violence survivors. And that is really the way you can most easily see the connection between law and humanities. It's when you're changing a law to do something that impacts society as a whole. That's how law and humanities work together. And Kim's story, just like last year's story, if those of you who were here last year, we were talking about criminal justice and criminal justice reform. This year it's domestic violence and domestic violence justice reform. And they all are just different varieties of the same thing. And so I hope everyone has a great time listening to Kim. Please ask lots of questions. She has been through an enormous amount of things that are really educational, often tragic, but also heroic. And I really look forward to having her tell you her story in her own words. Because if you saw the movie, there was a lot of great summary, but I think there's going to be a lot more. When you peel the onion back, there's going to be a lot more for everyone. So please ask questions. Please enjoy the conversation. Let me waste no more of your time. Kim Dadou Brown.
Wow, thank you. Do I need this? Hi, everybody. They mic'd me up, so I don't think I need this. And I have a big mouth, so I really don't need this. I don't want it to fall. So let me just tell you, I was freaking out while he was introducing me. I couldn't find my talk on my phone, and I was like, I live this. I could just say it, right? So I don't like to talk at people. So this is like a conversation among all of us. Just consider us all friends. And we're just having some water. You guys have the best sweet tea down here in South Carolina, I gotta tell you. I get it every time I go back to the hotel. So, first of all, hi, good afternoon. And thank you for coming. I'm gonna refer to my notes just so I can stay on track. I wanna first thank Clemson for having me here and James for, oh my gosh, he has done everything for my partner Natalie and I. Natalie is the executive director and writer of And So I Stayed. She had to go back home this morning. She has small children. And so she left me all here all by myself. But James has been absolutely amazing. He has catered to us and made this trip the best. I mean, this tops all my trips. This even tops Cincinnati, James. This tops Cincinnati. So and I'm a Bengals fan, so I got to go to the stadium, but this definitely tops that. And I have to just say one more thing about James. He can drive a golf cart like no other person in the United States of America, okay? He drove us around campus yesterday. I was waving to people like I was the queen. It was fabulous. So again, thank you for all of your hospitality and all of your love. This is a sensitive topic, so it could be triggering. Where I hope we're all amongst friends here. And so if anything is triggering or upsetting to you, please feel free to leave, do whatever you need to do for self-care. And then everyone, just promise me that when you leave here today, you will do something for self-care, because all of us should do one little thing a day for self-care. Whether it's sitting on the edge of your bed, lotioning your feet for 5 minutes longer. God, that feels so good. It's self-care, right? Alrighty, so let's dig in. There is a new pandemic. Well, it's a pandemic that's been around since the beginning of time, and it's called domestic violence. And it's a virus, and it just infects us, and it has infected our society. And if it hasn't affected you personally, it's probably affected someone you know. You know, everybody knows Aunt Vicky used to get hit by Uncle Billy Lee, or Uncle Chuck used to drink too much, or, you know, everybody knows. But nobody really talks about it out loud. I'm here to talk about it out loud. As you all know, I'm Kim, and I served 17 years in prison for defending myself from my abuser. In 1991, I shot and killed my boyfriend right in front of my mother's house in Rochester, New York. I did not wake up that morning and decide to kill the man that I loved, even though that love had turned to fear. In no way, shape, or form was it premeditated. Like I said, I served 17 years in prison, and I came home in 2008, and I deemed myself a formerly incarcerated survivor advocate. And myself and some other women were trying to show the importance of our voice. Nobody wanted to hear us. And we never shut up. And that's how I got to where I am today. I want to talk about the intersection between domestic violence and the criminal justice system. So I was 24 years old. I had been in this violent relationship with Darnell for 4.5 years. Prior to Darnell, I was in an abusive marriage. I got married young and jumped from the pan right into the fire. I thought he was my knight in shining armor. I knew him since high school, but he was one of them guys in high school that had a van and always wanted the girls to go to lunch, you know? And I never dated anyone I went to school with because I felt like if you put out, they talk about you, you're easy, you're a slut, and if you don't, you're a tease. So I just didn't mess with any of the boys in my school. But Darnell was always asking me to go to lunch with them, and he was in my art class. He was just so cute. And I was, no, 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 no. So we lost touch. He graduated 2 years before me, and we lost touch. And after I got out of my abusive marriage, I ran into him one day. And it was like we were just meant to be together. He was my knight in shining armor. He had flowers in the car every time he picked me up. He, and we quickly became just inseparable. Saturdays spent in bed all day and Sundays with family, his family, my family. And so it wasn't all bad. It was actually wonderful in the beginning, as it usually is. I mean, if you go out with a guy and he's a jerk on the first date, you're not going to go out with him again, right? Darnell was everything I thought I needed and wanted in my life. Until one night, we were sitting at Jones Park, and he offered me his grandmother's ring and asked me to marry him. And of course, I was still technically married to Eddie. So I said, I can't accept your ring. I'm so flattered. Let me take care of this situation, get a divorce. Let me get a divorce. And I will be your wife. I would love nothing more than that. He slapped me so hard, so fast, that my face just bounced off the passenger side window. And that was the first time he ever hit me. I was stunned. It just reiterated to me, it rang in my head, all guys hit. And all I wanted to do was go home. You would think that would be the end of our relationship, but it wasn't. I was already 6 months in. I didn't realize that he had already been isolating me from my family and my friends. I only hung out with him or maybe his friends. He all of a sudden didn't like my sister. My friend Jill was a whore. Why are you hanging with that whore? She's a whore. And I didn't realize what was happening because I was able to get out of my marriage. So I thought that, actually my husband left. He beat the hell out of me one day, left me laying on the floor, and I feebly said, this marriage is over. And he was like, yeah, I know. And he packed his shit and he left. And that's how my marriage ended. So I was able to get out of that. It was a good, clean break. And here I am now with this guy that I think is the end-all, be-all, that now it's like all I have is him. He just slapped the hell out of me. Of course, we stayed together. Of course, time went on. He never apologized. Never. Never said he was sorry. And then, let's just flash forward 4.5 years. We had a fight on Thanksgiving, 1991. I caught him in a lie, a stupid lie. And he literally beat the hell out of me in front of his kids. He had kids by another woman prior to me. And I don't need that. And he beat the hell out of me, ripped my stockings, left me laying in the driveway, and drove off with the kids to go to his sister's house for dinner. That was the start of the fight. And for like the next month, all we did was argue on the phone. And back then, y'all, there were no cell phones, okay? There were only landlines. So, you know, I would get home and there would be messages on the machine from him or, you know, whatever. And I had moved back to my mom's house. We had been living together. I had moved back to my mom's house for safety reasons. I had already had him arrested 5 times. I had hospital reports, police reports, reports at the local battered women's shelter. And every time I left him, it got worse and worse. He would sit outside my job. I used to work for the United Cerebral Palsy Association. I was a respite counselor, the evening manager. You know, I really thought I had it going on. I had a company car, company gas card. I had my own shift. You know, I was pushing wheelchairs through the mud so people could pick out pumpkins and taking them back to the house and carving them and painting them. And I just love my people. I love my people. I take them to the grocery store and let them go crazy in the cereal aisle, you know. They'd be like, Kim, why did you spend $180 on cereal? And I'm like, they're happy, you know. So he would sit outside my job for 3 or 4 hours before I got off work. On his days off, he would come to my job and volunteer to clean the carpets or to just be there. My boss was like, look, what a great guy you have. And I'm like, yeah, he's wonderful. Nobody seen the red flags. And I was so caught up, I didn't even know they were red flags. I didn't even know what was happening in my life. But I thought I had a handle on it. December 17th, 1991, almost a month after our horrible, horrible fight. I'm not even gonna call it a fight. He beat the hell out of me. There was no fighting back. I wouldn't even scratch him. My nails grow really long on their own. And I wouldn't even scratch him when he was attacking me because it would make it worse. He was raping me in his garage, and I accidentally scratched him. I would never do that again. It was horrible. And let me tell you real quick about the order of protection thing. We weren't married. So back then, I couldn't get an immediate order of protection. You would have to file a police report, go down to room 123 in the Hall of Justice, and fill out and tell your story again, and then they send you to another room, and then you still can't get an order of protection until you go to court 2 weeks later. In the interim, now I have the court date. I know when we're supposed to go to court. In the interim, they mail him his court summons. So now we're back together. And every day he goes by his mom's house to get his mail. my heart is literally in my ass because I don't know when he's going to get that letter. So eventually he does, and he comes outside with that look. And I'm like, here we go. He was like, you really are taking me to court. You're bringing the system into our relationship. Like it's all my fault and I'm the bad one. So of course, that leads to another abusive incident. He's got to show me he's the man. He was like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go find my boy Melvin. And as soon as we see Melvin, I'm going to punch you right in the face. Just to show him that I'm not pussy whipped like they say I am over you. I was like, so we're driving around and I'm like, please don't let Melvin be home. Please don't let Melvin be at the basketball court. Please don't let Melvin be at his job. Like, it was insanity. But it was normal life. So, December 17th, 1991, he calls my mom's house and he says, I'm coming out. I need the insurance papers, blah, blah, blah. Because he had a car, I had a car, and then we had bought a car together, our luxury car, our little Fifth Avenue. It was cute. So he pulls up in the Fifth Avenue, and I go outside, I get in the car, and an argument ensues. And, well, at first we're like hugging and kissing and everything's great. Then an argument ensues. If you had seen the film, I really don't like talking vulgar, but he wanted me to suck his dick in the car. Like, come on, baby, you know. And I'm like, no, what is wrong with you? I'm not going to do this here in the car. Come in the house. Stop acting like that. And he really was like, well, if you're not giving it to me, who are you giving it to? That's my ass. I take it when I want it. And he really felt that way. And so an argument ensued, and he's like, you know, this is it, bitch, this is it. And he starts choking me. I can't breathe. This time, I really can't breathe. There have been other times when I couldn't breathe, but this time, he was crushing my throat. So with all my might, I knew he kept his gun under the passenger seat. When we used to go over license plates, when we used to go over train tracks, I used to be afraid, like I was so gun naive, I used to be afraid that it would like hit a bump, go off and shoot me in the ankle. Like I was always afraid, and he would threaten me with it. And he told me, don't you ever touch my gun. If you ever touch my gun, I'll fucking kill you. I believed what he said. So I grabbed the gun, and I pulled up with all my might. Like, stop, I can't breathe. Stop. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a place where you had to hold your breath too long. And the gun went off. And he let go of me. And I fell out of the car into the snowbank. And I scrambled in the house, and behind me, he screamed, bitch, get back here. So I thought I didn't shoot him. I thought I shot into the seat, the ceiling, I didn't shoot him. Because it's not like on TV where you shoot somebody and they fall down dead. It's not like that. And I ran in the house, and my little sister was there, and she was 15 and 9 months pregnant. That's a whole nother story. But she's like, what was that banging? What was going on? And I said, oh, I was banging on the hood of the car. You know, Darnell's mad at me. And she was like, why are you limping? What's, you know? And I'm like, I'm okay. I was like, if he comes in the house, call the police. Just call the police. And she's like, is he beating you up again? I'm like, no, I'm fine. Baby, I'm fine. Just if he comes in the house, call the police. She was like, okay. So I go upstairs to my bedroom and I lock the door. Like that would make me safe. And I said, what's he doing? Because my bedroom was in the back of the house and he's out front. And she's like, he's driving away, calm down. And I'm like, fuck, he's gonna come back and kill me. I grabbed his gun, it went off, He's going to come back and kill me. I got to get out of here. So I grabbed my keys. I told my sister, watch me go to my car. And if you see him, because I just thought now he's going to jump out of the bushes, he's going to, he's going to run up the street. And I said, if you see him, call the police because he's going to kill me. And through all the years we had been together, I had never been more afraid for my life than that night. So I got in my car and I drove to a friend's house that he didn't know. And it was my friend Tony, and I was like, Tony, I told him what happened, and he was like, come on in, it's okay, you can stay here, until we, and maybe he'll calm down. At no time did I think I had shot him or that he was dead. So for 2 days, I was running from him. I was hiding from him, and he was already dead. So 2 days later, I had to go home because I was in the same clothes, hadn't showered. I felt gross. I was like, I don't care how scared I am. I have to go home and change my underwear. I have to change my clothes. I need a shower. And, so I went home. When I walked in the door, my mother and my sister were sitting there. And my mother just looked at me. And I'm like, what's going on? And my sister said, tell her. And I'm like, tell me what? I thought maybe Darnell came there, threatened them. I don't know what he's done while I've been hiding for 2 days. My mother said, you tell her. And my sister's like, Darnell's dead. And I'm like, what do you mean Darnell's dead? And I'm like, I didn't shoot him. He drove away. And so my mom had to go to work that night. She went to work. She was like, I really need you to stay home with your sister. She's 9 months pregnant, 15 years old, due any minute. And so I stayed home with my sister that night. The next morning, they told me he had died in a car accident. The next morning, my mom comes home from work, and she's like, where did you go last night? I thought I asked you to stay here with your sister. I said, I didn't go anywhere. She was like, well, then how did you get 3 flat tires? I literally had 3 flat tires. And I'm like, I have no idea. I haven't moved my car. You can see there's snow. There's new snow. I haven't moved my car. So she was like, okay, I'm going to go over to the garage and order you some tires. I said, okay. I'm not okay. I'm crying. I'm hysterical. Darnell's gone. I don't know exactly what happened. But at no time did I ever think of calling the police. At no time, because they never helped me before, at no time did I ever think that I had done it. They said he died in a car accident. I could see that. We were in a near-fatal car accident in '89 where I lost a baby and literally had to learn how to walk again because I had such massive hip and pelvis fractures. So I'm like, oh my God, he died in a car accident. This is so tragic, and now I'm like, I'm so upset. He's gone. And he was larger than life to me. My mom goes to get the tires, and as soon as she leaves, there's a knock at the door. I go to the door. I just got up, so all I threw on was a pair of ski pants and a T-shirt. Like, I don't even have on a bra, underwear, socks, nothing. And so it's 2 detectives, Coleman and Graff. 32 years, I still remember their names. 33 years, I still remember their names. Terry Coleman, they're like, you own a Fifth Avenue, a maroon, blah, blah, blah. We need you to come with us to identify the car. There was a fatal car accident, and we need you to come with us to identify the car. So I'm like, well, my sister's here. She's pregnant. I'm not supposed to leave her. My mom just went to the garage. I can't leave. I said, let me go back in. No, 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 no. Don't go back in the house. Don't go back in the house. So now they got me standing outside my side door. So I'm like, they're like, you got to come with us. You have to come with us and identify this car now. They're like, we'll have you right back in 20, 30 minutes. And so I yelled upstairs to my sister, and she was sleeping. I was like, Wendy, blah, I got to go with these people. And so she opens the window, the storm window, and she's talking to me. She's like, okay, where's mom? And so, they're like, come on, we got to go. We got to identify this car now. So I get in the car with them, and there's a homicide detective next to me. I didn't know he was a homicide detective. There was a detective next to me and two in the front seat. And we start going downtown, and I'm thinking about going to identify the car and how hard that is, and I can't believe he's gone. And I start crying. And the detective says, you can cut the act. We know you did it. And I'm like, did what? And they're like, we know you killed him. We know you shot him. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? So anyway, we get downtown, and I'm like, where are we going to identify the car? And they're like, there's no car. You're going downtown. We want to talk to you. So we get downtown, and they put me in a room and everything, and they start interrogating me. Nobody read me my rights. Nobody told me anything. They just started tell us how you shot him. Tell us why you shot him. Tell us this. Tell us that. And then they were like, they had pictures, and they threw the pictures in front of me. Is this the car? Is this the passenger seat? Is this the driver's seat? And then they accidentally threw pictures in front of me of him dead, and him in the morgue, and the bullet wounds, and the blood. And then they start telling me what happened. And they said, you shot him. We don't know why you shot him, but you shot him. And he drove away. And he lost control of the car. And he hit a neighbor's house. The lady thought it was her cats playing downstairs in the middle of the night. Never got up to see what the noise was. It was our car in her living room. Darnell must have got out of the car and started walking north back up towards my house. I don't know all my neighbors. My mom lived in like a hoity-toity neighborhood where the neighbors really don't speak that much. And so he stopped at some people's house, I don't even know. And he banged on their door for help. And an old deaf couple lived there, and they didn't hear him. And he passed out, and he froze to death in the snow. The old man came out the next morning to shovel his driveway. Simultaneously, another neighbor is calling the other neighbor saying, Liz, you have a car in your living room. What's going on? So all this is going on, and then the police come, and they're trying to put it all together, and they realize his girlfriend, me, lives right around the corner, so something must have happened. So that's how they got back to me. They also accused me of driving past where he had hit the house. So they tried to charge me with leaving the scene of an accident because there was no way I had driven past there and not seen his car that had hit that house. But my word to you all right now, lightning strike me dead. I did not see our car, because I would have noticed our Fifth Avenue, our maroon Fifth Avenue, in somebody's house in the snow. So I don't know to this day when, how that happened. I just know that I did not pass our car on my flight out of that neighborhood to get away from there. I wanted to take the danger away from my mom's house. and my sister. So now I'm downtown, and they're interrogating me. No one ever read me my rights. I don't even know that I'm being accused of murder. Terry Coleman comes in, and he starts the good cop, bad cop thing. That's a real thing, you guys. I didn't know. And he says, so we see that you have some police reports, and there must have been domestic violence in this relationship. Tell us what happened. You'll never do a day. You'll never do a day. There isn't a judge in this country that will convict you. You will never do a day. Tell us what happened. And I was like, I don't know what happened. I really didn't know. My mind was spinning. I didn't have a clear thought. I was completely traumatized. I didn't know what happened. And so they left me alone again. An hour, 2 hours must have went by. I asked them, can I have some water? Can I use the bathroom? I really have to pee. They said, you want something? We want something too. You tell us what we want to know, and we'll let you use the bathroom. We'll let you make all the phone calls you want to make. And that's how it went until I heard my sister's voice in the next room and my mother's voice. And I said, why are they here? Why do you have my sister here? She's 15 and 9 months pregnant, very fragile to me. And they were like, one of y'all shot him. What, he was beating you up again and she came to your rescue and shot him? Or did you shoot him? And I said, because they said, one of you isn't going home today. And immediately I said, let her go, and I will tell you everything that I know that happened. And I don't know if they let her go. They left me alone again. An hour went by. About an hour, I don't even know. I'm just estimating. And they came back in with a typewriter, and they took an 8-page statement from me. And this statement explained all the times I had him arrested. I let them know I had a file at the local battered women's shelter. Every scar on my body is from him. Broken ribs, punctured lung. I can't tell you how many busted lips and black eyes I've had. And I thought they were listening to me. So I told them everything about him raping me in his garage, about him stabbing me in my hip when I tried to jump out of the car when it was moving. He told me the car was about to run out of gas one night. And he said, I said, can we stop and get gas? And he said, if you stop this car, I'll fucking kill you. And he said, you should have got gas before you picked me up. Now you're taking up my time. And he said, matter of fact, before we get to that light right there, I'm gonna punch you in your fucking face. And I'm driving. And he did it. And the light turned green, and I was going really, really slow. And I literally opened my door and tried to fall out of the car. He grabbed a pair of scissors that I kept in my divider, and he stabbed me in my hip. And I still have the scars on my hip. Bleeding, sore. Have you ever been so scared that all you hear in your head is a freight train? That's what I heard. All I heard in my head was a freight train. And now he's telling me to drive to his mother's house. So we drive to his mother's house, and we go in, And he forces me to have sex with him on the living room floor. And he tells me, you better not get any blood on the carpet. So I took off my jacket and I put it under me. Because now it's my responsibility to not get blood on the carpet. I told the police all these things. I told them how I went to the battered women's shelter, how I tried to leave him, because the $1 million question, why didn't she leave? I wish I had a nickel, because I would be very, very rich. So I told them all this. And they wrote it out in an 8-page statement. And I said, this is, and they were like initial here and initial there. And I thought I was doing the right thing with no lawyer, no legal counsel at all. I had never been arrested. I didn't know anything but to tell them the truth. And that 8-page statement got me 8 1/3 to 25 in New York State Prison. I was found not guilty of murder in the second degree because it was not premeditated. They charged me with murder in the second degree. After I initialed the last page of the statement, Terry Coleman said, I said, can I go home now? They had taken my boots and my jacket. Remember, I didn't even have on underwear, socks, bra, nothing. All I had on was a pair of ski pants and a T-shirt. And he was like, no, you're not going anywhere. And then Detective Graff said, what are we going to charge her with? And Terry Coleman said, fuck her, charge her with murder in the second degree. I got charged with murder in the second degree because I told them exactly what happened. So I go to trial. And at trial, I got found not guilty of murder in the second degree, but guilty of man one. And so I went to New York State Prison. I was in Bedford Hills for 4 years, where I earned my bachelor's in psychology. And that was like real college. Like they had Mercy College come in from the outside, and they were like, we don't cut y'all any short. You get no second chances. You have the same access to information as our regular students. I mean, there was no internet back then and stuff like that. I mean, I think like Windows 1 was out, Windows 7, something ridiculous, right? So I earned my bachelor's. Like I didn't know how I was going to do this time. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I had 8 1/3 to 25 to do, and I was 25 years old. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go home when I'm 33. That's still young enough to have a family. That's still young enough to get a job, buy a house, live my dream, have a life again. But what they don't tell you is the political climate shifts. And sometimes it's an attack on drug dealers and stuff like that, and sometimes it's an attack on people with violent crimes. And no matter what the circumstances, I had a violent crime. So I ended up doing 17 years. Your conditional release date is 2/3 of your maximum, right? So 2/3 of 25 is 17. So I did the 8 1/3, and I went to my first parole board. And I had pictures that I had kept with me all those years, Polaroids from the battered women's shelter. And when I went to the parole board, I said, look what he did to me. Look, yes, I shot him. And I'm sorry. But look what he did to me all these years. And they were like, can we have those? And I said, no. I have carried these with me all these years to prove to you. And they hit me with 2 years and denied me parole. They said, due to the nature of your crime, we cannot release you at this time. You would be a menace to society. Every 2 years, they rephrased it. Due to the nature of your crime, it was overkill. Overkill? Due to the nature of your crime, we commend you on your institutional record, but we feel that it would be a detriment to society if we released you. Like, they just reworded it. Every 2 years, I would go back to the parole board and plead my case. Look what he did to me. And so that went on 2000, 2002, 2004, 2006, 2008. In 2008, I went to the parole board for the last time because I was going to CR out in November. And in 2008, I went to the parole board and they said, Miss Dadou, would you like to tell us about what happened the night of December 17th, 1991? And I said, no. I said, 5 times I have come before you. And 5 times I have pled my case and told you what happened. And you don't care. No, I don't want to talk about what happened December 17th, 1991, with all due respect. And they said, okay, you're dismissed. And they hit me with 2 years again. They hit me past my CR date. So the parole board does that so that if you mess up, if you do go home and mess up, then they can say, aha, we told you not to let her go. So that was in September of 2008. My out date for 17 years was November 5th, 2008. I wished years of my life away so I could get to November 5th, 2008. So before you go home, you have to go see the institutional parole officer, and he asks you, where are you going to live? Do you have a job set up? Who is, you're going to have a curfew. And I'm like, okay, all right. But they didn't call for me. And I'm like, why are they not calling for me? It's October 30th. Like, I go home in 6 days. Like, why are they not calling for me? And so finally they called for me the next day. And I'm like, you guys, I thought you weren't going to call for me. I go home in 5 days. And they were like, no, you don't. And I was like, what? And you know when tears burn the back of your eyes so bad and you instantly feel your eyes turning like blood red? Like, that's how I felt. I felt like blood was going to come out of my eyes. They burned so bad. I didn't want this motherfucker to see me cry. I was like, what? He said, oh yeah, we did a recomputation of your time. You go home on the 20th. I lost it. Like, I just started bawling. I just cried. I said, sir, for 17 years, November 5th, 2008 has been my out day. I have lived every breath for this day. And now you tell me I don't go home for 2 more weeks? I was like, it figures. It figures. Like, who does this happen to but me? I'm like, it figures. This is Darnell, still over me, still controlling my life, still traumatizing me through the system now. And this is how I felt. Every time I was assaulted by an officer, every time a visit was cut short because the visiting room was too crowded, every time something bad happened, I said, I'm never going to get from under this dark cloud. So I went back to my housing unit, and I was freaking upset, just crying. And my friends came over, and they were like, yo, what's going on? I know you're going home. Why are you crying? You just gave her parole, What'd they do? Not accept your address? And I'm like, no. These assholes just told me I don't go home till the 20th. I can't do 2 more weeks. I lived for this day. I can't. And they reality checked me real quick. You know how your girlfriends do. Bitch, get your shit together. You just did 17 years. You could do 2 weeks standing on your head. Stop it. And a couple of them weren't going home anytime soon. So they were like, get your shit together. And I did. And I lived through 2 more weeks. And on November 20th, I was ready to go. I'd been ready, but I was ready to go. And I go down to the admin building, and I'm getting ready to leave. And my last name starts with D. And they always do it in alphabetical order. Like everybody knows, even though nobody got out, right? Everybody knows what happens when you get out. They do it in alphabetical order. If your last name starts with A, B, C, D, you're out first. It's like they process you out like that. Well, these assholes at the front gate knew that I was leaving that day, and I was a long-termer. Everybody knew me because I was a long-termer. I had long-termer status. It's like a stupid status in prison to be a long-termer. Anyway, they started at the other end of the alphabet. So I would be last to walk out the door. And again, they twisted the knife. And again, I felt like Darnell was still saying, I got you. I got you. And every time someone walked out the door, like the big white door would open, big metal white door, I could see my mom sitting in her little red car waiting for me. Every time someone walked out, and there were like 8 people in front of me. I was like, and I started crying because I'm like, she thinks I'm not coming. After all these years, I could have had my girlfriend pick me up in a limo. I could have, but my mom had always said, the day you get out, I want to pick you up and take you to breakfast at McDonald's. That was her thing. She took the grandkids to McDonald's all the time. So that was her thing. She just wanted to pick me up and take me to breakfast at McDonald's and then bring me home. And that's exactly what happened. She picked me up. She took me to McDonald's. We went home, and I made her breakfast at home. And I made her an omelet, and she said she had waited 17 years for that omelet. I make good omelets, y'all, real good omelets. So then I have to go to parole. And I go to parole, and that same day, you have to report. I go to parole, and I walk in, and the parole officer tells me, because now I'm seen as the abuser. I'm seen as the perpetrator. I'm not seen as a victim. So my parole officer, Ms. McDonald, says, you have to go to a group for abusers. And the only group we have for abusers is of men. And I said, you want to put me in a room full of male abusers? And they're like, well, you're the perpetrator. You did kill him. And I'm like, you can't put me in a room full of male abusers. You can't do that to me. I said, you may as well take me back to prison, or I'm going to become a vigilante and find out where all of them live. I really said this, because I was like, I have nothing to lose at this point. Going back to prison sounded better to me than meeting twice a week in a room full of abusive men. And I said, I'm a victim of domestic violence. I wasn't the abuser. He was. And she was like, you were a victim. I said, yeah, you didn't read my file. And she was like, go back out and sit in the waiting room, and I'll call for you in a minute. She really didn't sound like a witch, but to me, she sounded like a witch. So I go back out, and I sit out there, and the guys are trying to talk to you because they're thirsty because they just got out of prison. And they're like, yo, baby, what'd you do? What are you here for? And I'm like, oh, God, please stop talking to me. And so I'm like, men From the moment I went to prison to coming out, men were not a good thing. They were officers. They were not nice people. If they were nice, they wanted something. They wanted to get you alone in the closet or in the storage room or behind the mess hall. Everybody knew the spots to not be caught alone with the officers. And sometimes you just got caught. And so she said, my parole officer said, we're going to give you therapy one-on-one with this counselor, a male counselor. And again, I was like, does it have to be a man? Like, what are you trying to do? Like, there was no trauma-informed approach. There was no sensitivity or no empathy or understanding as to me, what I had been through, and what I still had to go through. But I have to tell you, Bill turned out to be a great guy. And he really pushed me to do well. And he pushed me to open my mouth and to speak my truth. And he knew that there needed to be reform. And he knew that I knew some people that were working on a law. They were working on a bill. I feel like Schoolhouse Rock. Do any of y'all remember that? I'm just a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. Right. That's how it was. Our bill got stuck in the Codes Committee in Albany, New York, for I can't tell you how long. We started a bill, and even before I came home, we started a bill called the Domestic Violence Survivors Justice Act. Big, long name, DVSJA. And this law would essentially force DAs and judges to take notice of a domestic violence defense. So after your trial, and it's unfortunate that you have to be charged with a crime in order for our law to help you, but after your trial, there's a special DVSJA hearing to see if you could be sentenced under a different guideline, because the guidelines are the same. Except statistics show that men get less time for killing women than women get for killing men. Because we step outside of that submissive role, now it's like a witch burning. Oh my God, she must be crazy. Well, I'm not. I didn't have a drug addiction I could blame it on. I didn't have a mental health issue I could blame it on, other than the PTSD I still live with. So I was on parole. I owed them 8 years when I came home. They let me go after 3. It's called the 3YD, a 3-year conditional discharge. And my goal, my job, was to find a job and live successfully with this big fat felony hanging over my head. So now I'm working on this law, and I'm trying to find a job, and I'm reporting to parole, and I'm going to therapy, and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. So my counselor says, there's this, well, I told him there was this lobby day in Albany, and he said, I think you should go. I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I'm too scared. I don't want to go to Albany all by myself. He was like, what's wrong with that? He said, I think you should go. I said, I don't think my parole officer is going to let me go. So I wasn't even worried about it. He called my parole officer right there in front of me and said, I think she should go. And that's when Bill said, sometimes you have to push the little bird out of the nest to see her fly, so she can spread her wings and fly. He said, you need to fly. So that was the very first lobby day that I went to in Albany. And I went to 10 more, 20 more, 30 more. There were always lobby days, senatorial conferences, legislative breakfasts, speaking in front of the New York State Junior League, and all these people that I felt had no idea what my life was like. But they were supporting our law, our bill. In 2019, in 2019, I met with Kathy Hochul, who was then the lieutenant governor, at the Women's Legal Conference in Manhattan. And I said, on camera, because we had a camera in her face, do you support the DVSJA? And she said, I do. And I said, can we get it passed this year? And she said, I think we're going to. And a few months later, well, that was in February, March, April, like 2 months later, a month later, the governor signed it, Cuomo at the time. And our bill became law. And to this day, the DVSJA has gotten 40-plus people resentenced or out of prison. So we have 40-plus survivors who now have hope, freedom, or the opportunity for freedom. So now I'm like, okay, I can retire. My job is done. I'm all that. But it's not. I've been talking with our state representative, Joe Morelli. He's our congressman for my district. Cute little short guy. He's cockeyed. Don't tell him I said that. He's so cute. He's just the cutest little guy. But he's a powerhouse. I see him, like when they do things in Washington. I'm like, look at Joe sitting there at the table, look at him. And, I always say I have friends in low places because I know politicians and lawyers. No offense, I know we have lawyers here, but, it's just my joke. So Joe said, let's take this to a federal level. And I want you to spearhead it. I'm like, Joe, I want to retire. I'm tired. And he's like, we're not done. And I said, well, considering the political climate right now in Washington, maybe this is a little too progressive. And he was like, nope, we're doing it. So that's our next step with our law. And I have been to several states, like California beat us. They got their domestic violence law in before us. I was not happy about that. I said, how could California beat New York? We're New York, And, but they did. And Illinois also has a domestic violence law that has been enacted longer than ours. They've only gotten 7 people out. 7. So I don't feel like I can retire. I feel like this is my calling. I have a regular 9-to-5 job. I have bills to pay and, 3 fur babies at home and a spouse. And I'm like, I can't stop. I have to bring awareness. I have to ask you all. I have to do a call to action. I have to say, if you see something, say something. If you know somebody, if you know a guy that's hitting his girlfriend, as a guy, I wish you would say, dude, what you doing? You don't own her. She's not your property. She's a blessing in your life. Regarded as such. If you know a chick who gets drunk and beats up her boyfriend and it's embarrassing and he just takes it, check her. Be like, yo, girl, what you doing? You're about to lose this guy. Is that what you want? You love him. How can you hurt him? It's got to stop. We have to hold each other accountable. So now my next step is, how do I hold abusers accountable? I want to make domestic violence, I want to make the words domestic violence as vile and vulgar and nasty as child molester, baby killer. These are people I was in prison with. I know people who molested their children so bad that they are never allowed to see them again, and the kids are messed up for the rest of their lives. These are people I had to live with. But domestic violence wasn't that bad. I did 17 years. It is that bad. I don't want to see you or you or you or you or you in any kind of painful relationship. That's not what it's all about. I want to preach love and hope and accountability. If your husband hits you, sometimes you can't say it. I know women who have held it in for 20, 30 years, and they're in prison still holding it in. And if you ask them about it, their tears just fall and they just walk away. They can't deal with it. It's real. And it lives in our society like a scarab, like something that will eat you from the inside out. We are so desensitized. We watch war in real time. We watch murders and killings in real time. You can Google a beheading and see one right now. How are we supposed to care about the next door neighbor, your aunt, your friend, your cousin that lives over there? How are we supposed to do that when we're desensitized by what we see? So my goal here today and every day, and trust me, if you go out to dinner with me, I won't talk about sad stuff. I'm very food motivated. My goal is to bring domestic violence to the front of your mind, because somewhere, somehow, this affects you and affects someone in your life. Be there for them. Notice the red flags yourself. If you're in a situation like that, get help. There is help. By God, do not end up where I did. I wouldn't wish my path on my worst enemy. Maybe one. She could probably take a lesson or two, but I just really, I really wouldn't. I don't want anyone to lose years of their life like I did. I don't want anyone to die, because it's not going to stop. It's not going to go away. He or she is not going to change overnight. You absolutely, after meeting me, cannot say it's not your business, because it is your business. And it's your business, and it's your business, and it's your business, and it's your business. It's everybody's business. If you've seen someone beating a child, would you intervene? Yeah, right? You're like, yeah. You'd be like, ma'am, why are you punching your 2-year-old in the face? Right? But if you see a grown man beating up a grown woman, would you intervene? Would you say, hey, buddy, what are you doing? That might be the moment she needs to see that there's help, that someone sees her, that someone knows what's going on with her. I'm that crazy person. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? You know, I have no fear. Like I tell everybody, I have no fear except spiders. If it's a spider attacking you, I can't help you. I'm sorry. You're on your own. But if someone's beating a dog, someone would say something, right? Like, stop. Give me your dog. You don't want that dog? Give it to me. What are you doing? You can't beat that dog. No one ever said, get off of her. We were just talking about Kodak, right? You and I? Kodak, big factory in Rochester. It was the end-all, be-all back in the day, right? Now it's just shells of buildings with too much asbestos in them. But back in the day, I lived near Kodak Park. And there was a little bar right across the street from Kodak Park where all the workers went to and had a beer or whatever on the way home. My boyfriend was beating the shit out of me one night, and he was driving. And at the big intersection of Ridge Road, right before you get to Kodak, I got out of the car at the red light. I got out of the car and I just started walking. Fuck you. Why am I in this car? And so I started walking. I got to that little bar in front of Kodak. Now I'm just walking. I'm walking home. Screw it. I'm walking home. I'll walk past the cemetery. Scary as hell. I don't care. Not scarier than this guy in this car. So I'm walking. He jumps the curb, pulls the car up right in front of me on the sidewalk in front of the bar. There's a major walkway right there, like a big crosswalk, big crosswalk. There's Kodakers getting engineers. They got their tool belts on. They're getting out of work. Hundreds of people going in and out of the bar. And Darnell gets out of the car and he says, "Get the fuck in the car." And I'm like, "No, get away from me." And I go to walk around the car like, "Get away from me, get away." And I just think he's not going to attack me in front of all these people. He did. He grabs me. He slams me up against the car like a rag doll. And he proceeds to he's smashing me up against the car. I'm screaming for help. Help, somebody help me, somebody help me, help me, somebody help me. Everybody looked the other way. Everybody. I think maybe one person made eye contact with him. And he said, "You want to help this bitch? You want to help this bitch? Come help this bitch. You want to help this bitch?" And the dude was like, "Never mind." No one ever helped. No one ever intervened. One day I went to work, and I thought my makeup had covered the green bruise on my face. And one of the nurses I worked with said, "You don't have to take that." Just passing me in the hallway. She said, "You don't have to take that." And I looked right at her and I said, "Take what?" I wouldn't, I couldn't. I thought it would make me look compromised, weak. And I didn't want to look that way. I never knew that there was real help out there. So I implore you, please, if you know someone, if you see something, intervene, say something. No longer say it's not my business. Help them. If you're in that situation yourself, I don't care how old you are. You could have been with this guy for 10, 20, 30 years. You can get out. There's safety. Nothing is more important in my life right now than my safety. I'm a freak. I have cameras all around my house. I had 2 little dogs. I have 2 Yorkies. My little Yorkie, 18 pounds, Sergeant. He thinks he's a big dog, but he's definitely not. He's like smaller than a football. And so I had the opportunity to get a big dog recently, and I got her. You know, my honey doesn't like to tell me no, and I like that. So when I was like, I really want this puppy, I got her. But I got her not just because she was the cutest little white pit bull puppy you'd ever seen in your life, with the little ginger snap cookie brown spot on her head. Her name is Lulu Bell Ginger Snap Brown. Don't laugh, it's true. And I got her for protection. I wanted her, but I wanted her for protection. So still to this day, I'm trying to make myself safer. You know, I have 2 little dogs. I have to protect them from the neighbor's dogs, or, you know. But I wanted somebody who could protect me. And so I got my Lulu Bell, and she's 62 pounds, and she's a year old, and she's just the greatest gal ever. I love her. Can't wait to go home and get puppy kisses. But before I wrap up, I know I've been up here a long time talking. Holy moly, didn't I tell you 30 minutes? You were supposed to give me a signal. What time's our reservation for dinner? You said you're buying dinner. James is going to buy dinner, so all y'all are invited. So, but anyway, I want to leave. I don't want to leave you on a sad note. And I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I don't want you to look at me like, oh, God, look. No. I want you to know that the criminal justice system is broken. It's broken. We all know that. We all shake our heads, yeah, it's broken, it's broken. But what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it as individuals? You live here. You're responsible for it. We vote for these people. We vote for people who we hope will be good role models. We vote for people who we hope will bring change and positive change and recognize everyone is equal. Right? Age, sex, race. We have to accept each other and look out for each other. And then we can make domestic violence a thing of the past. Like polio, smallpox, freaking bubonic plague, all that. It's in the past. We need to, God bless you, we need domestic violence to be that thing of the past. So please, if you take anything with you from today, from me, take the want to make this not an issue anymore. I want to know why we have to have these seminars. Why? I started a new job recently. I'm gay. I'm married to my wife. We've been married now 7 years. 7 years. This summer. And I started a new job, and in this new job, they had an orientation for LGBTQ. I'm like, why do we have to have an orientation about my life? Why do we have to teach you why it's okay for me to be with Annie? Like, to me, it seemed really ridiculously stupid, you know? I mean, why do we have to have an entire afternoon talking about why I'm gay and why it should be none of your business, right? Like, that's how I see it. Why does it matter who I go home to? I don't care who you go home to, or, you know, I don't care. You got a dog, you got a cat, I'm not going to discriminate. I don't care. And so I said that. I said, why are we doing this? I'm gay. I find it offensive that we have to have a whole training about why it's acceptable to be gay. Just be who you are. I'm disappointed that we have to have these meetings. I'm disappointed that I have to reach back and grab my trauma. I call it, I pimp my trauma. Pimping my trauma for the, you like that, right? Pimping my trauma for the greater good. I pick and choose my memories. I didn't even look at my damn notes. I probably just screwed it all up, you guys, I'm sorry. But I pick and choose because I want to impact you. I want you to learn and grow from me. I want you to walk out of here saying, damn it, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to be a defense attorney. I'm going to work in the domestic violence arena. I want to defend those people. I want to be a counselor. I want to be a psychiatrist, a psychologist. I want to help them. I want to work in that field. I want to help so-and-so get out of that situation. I like being on the ground level. I'm the one that calls the police when I hear my neighbors screaming, and that has happened. And I'm the one that says, yeah, I called the police, and what? Because I don't have that fear anymore. But I did. So again, before I be quiet, I just want y'all to please, please know that it is your business and to take care of each other. And to know that if that person is in that situation, and they leave him or her, and they go back, and it happens again, and they leave him or her, and they go back, and it happens again, and they leave him or her, and they go back, don't give up on them. Because when you give up on them, that could mean life or death. Be there for them. Support them. Let's make domestic violence a thing of the past. Thank you, guys.
I didn't stop you because they didn't have something better to do than that.